Hi there, I'm Norm Hull, and welcome to my session on alchemy, how to nurture your soul and fill your bank account. In the time together, we're going to share some things I think will help enhance your business. More importantly, will help you as a person, as a presenter, as a consultant, as someone who might want to make a difference in the world. And the best way for me to explain how you can do this and enhance your business is to just share some experiences, some stories, some suggestions that you can incorporate and adapt to work for you. The first one that best symbolizes what I want to share with you is years ago. I'm a professional speaker. Years ago, I was with another speaker, and we were doing a series of workshops. And we were in Florida, and we were there the entire week and the following week. And I have to tell you that after about 4 days of working together, we knew we needed a break. And so the weekend was coming up, so we were both looking forward to it. And so I said, Mike, what are you going to do this weekend? And he said, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go diving. And I said, well, that sounds pretty cool. Can I go? And he said, well, not really. And I said, why not? He says, well, you're not a professional diver. And I said, is there a way I can go? And he said, yeah, there is. If we can get you into a recreational diving course, you probably can go with me. And I said, wow, great. I was in. And so we found out that the local hotel had a pool that they were using to teach lessons. So I was pretty excited because I signed up and said, yeah, I'm going to dive. And because I'm so old, a lot of you won't remember this guy, but his name was Mike Stone, and he was on Sea Hunt, and he was played by Lloyd Bridges. And the great thing about that show was he always somehow ended up in the water saving people, but it was a great entertaining show. And since that show, I've always wanted to go diving. So I was pretty excited. Friday came, and we were done with the workshop, and that night I went to the hotel for lessons, and I sat for 3 hours in a class and watched the world's most boring video. I read the book, I did the work, we hopped in the pool, and that's really where I excelled. And in a recreational dive, from what my friend told me, he said, man, you can go diving, but you're only going to go to 35 feet. Well, if you've never dived before, you've got no frame of reference. So 35 feet, you don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent. Didn't make a difference to me. I just knew I was diving. So when I was in the pool, I was excited. I was motivated. And in the pool, they taught us how to take off our tanks, how to flip upside down, how to clear our mask, and it came off. And when it was over, I asked the instructor, I said, so will I get to go diving tomorrow with my friend? He said, yeah. Well, that night, you need to know, I was so excited I couldn't sleep. I said, man, Mike, it's going to be great tomorrow. He said, yeah, but you're only going to go to 35 feet. And I was like, okay. And I recognized that 35 feet was the only level or depth they could take you the first dive because it was a recreational dive. But I still was excited. Have you ever been excited about something and someone else tried to damper your spirit because maybe it wasn't as exciting to them because they've already done it before? Yeah, well, that's the kind of feeling I was getting. The next morning we got up, we went to the shop, and there were other divers because it was Saturday, popular day to go diving, and walked up to the dive master, and I said, I'm ready. He said, good. I said, I can hardly wait to go diving with my friend. And he said, well, actually, you're not diving with them. And I said, why? You said I was good. And he said, you know, they're professional. And what that means is they're going to be underwater longer than you. And I said, we get the same tank, right? He said, yeah. I said, so why can't I go? And he said, most people, when they're brand new, they get excited, they breathe fast, they have to come up quicker, faster, earlier. And if you're with real divers, professional divers, they get ticked because once one person goes up, everybody has to go up. I said, oh, okay. So I'm not diving with them. And he said, no, but you're diving with me. And I thought, that's cool. So I asked him, I said, do I still get to flip over the back of the boat and like they do on the movies and hold the mask? And he said, yes, of course. And he said, remember? I said, yeah, hold the mask when I do it. I said to my friend, see you later, Mike. I'll see you when this is over. I watched them all flip into the water because they were professional. And then it was our turn, and I was next to the dive master, and we both flipped over, and I was just so in the moment that I forgot to hold on to my mask. So when I hit the water, it came off. And I put it back on, cleared it out, and he looked at me like, really? And I said, it won't happen again. Then when you're diving, you've got this vest on. It's your BC. You hit a button, and it fills up with air. You hit another button again, the same one that lets out air. And because you've got weights, you sink. And you've got a gauge to tell you how much air, how long you've been underwater. We've got all that stuff to protect us. So he hits his button, I hit my button. He goes like this to me because that's the okay sign. And if you're okay, you give it back to him. And next thing I know, we're sinking. And he goes like this. And I look up and I see the bottom of the boat. And it's funny because 10 feet underwater, the bottom of the boat looks totally different because of the water in between. He points, I'm looking around, taking it all in. He does that, I do that back, and guess what happens? He hits this button, I hit mine, we sink. I look at my gauge, we're at 20 feet. And at 20 feet, that's where you will see what I call the teaser fish. If you've ever gone diving, you realize these are the fish that swim right up to you. You look like you can touch and reach and grab them, but they swim away. And they're just teasing you, they're playing with you. But it's kind of cool, but that's where they are, about 20 feet. He hits his button again, and I hit mine, and we start to sink even deeper. And I'm looking at my gauge, because now we're at 30 feet. I look up, I can't really see the boat, it's just a blur. But I'm enjoying this. I can hear the bubbles. And I'm breathing, and I am breathing fast, I admit it. It was my first time. It was a great experience, so I was excited. The next thing I know, he flips, and he starts to swim towards the bottom. And when you dive and you've got a partner, you stay with your partner. So he's going down, I'm going down too. We're both diving, and I look at my gauge, and I can tell we're at 35 feet. And I'm expecting him to stop and us to hang out here, but no, he keeps going. And I have to tell you, I didn't know what to do, so I followed him. And he's going deeper, and we're at 45 feet and 50 feet. And I'm looking around, taking it all in, going, man, this is great. And then all of a sudden, I noticed the top, you couldn't see anything, but the bottom started to get brighter. If you've ever gone diving, you'll realize all of a sudden, for some reason, the bottom of the ocean is bright. And you would think with all the water in between, it wouldn't be so. I probably should have spent more time in science class and I could explain why this happened. But in that moment, I just saw it getting brighter. And we kept going, and I looked at my gauge, and we're at 60 feet, and I'm going, wait a second, my friend said 35. I could deal with 40 feet, 50 feet. We're at 60 feet. And he does this sign to me again, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I give it back to him because in honesty, it was the only sign I remembered. So we're going deeper. And next thing I know, I see the bottom of the ocean. I look at my gauge, we're at 85 feet, and I'm ecstatic, scared out of my mind. And he looks at me smiling, and I'm smiling back because this is cool. And next thing I know, he swims over to this rock overhang, pulls off his glove, and he starts waving it. And I'm thinking, what is you doing? What is this? And all of a sudden, out of the rocks comes this eel. Big teeth like this, scared the heck out of me, and he starts waving, and the eel starts biting where his finger would have been if he had the glove on. And I'm watching him wave this, waiting for that eel to go, I want more than the glove, I want your face. And he does, and he backs up, and he turns to me like, do you want this? And of course I'm like, no, I'm swimming back. And at that point, that's when I realize I'm diving with a crazy person. And what happens? He puts the glove on, does this, I'm like, we start swimming, I look at my gauge, I'm through a quarter of my tank already because I'm breathing hard right now. And next thing you know, we're swimming, and he does this in the water on the sand, and the sand comes up, and something starts running, and I realize it's a lobster. Now, you and I have seen a lobster in the store. They're sitting there screaming, take me, get me out of here. Or actually, don't take me, leave me alone. And you and I know that when we take them home, put them in the pot, they get orange, and we eat them and have butter, and we're like, hey, you taste good. But I got to tell you, in their natural element, they are fast. They don't look like they are trapped. They're living life. And sure enough, we're watching this one just scamper away, and he was quick. And I thought, this is cool to see a lobster in its element because I've never seen that except in a tank. And that's not their natural element. You know, one of the things about being out of your natural element is you get to figure out how you're going to behave. Because I have to tell you, I was out of my natural element. We're at 85 feet at the bottom of the ocean, tank on my back, diving with a crazy man, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. You see, when you have a setback, my question is going to be, when you're planning for the comeback, are you going to love it or are you going to wallow in it? There's no way I could get back to the top. even if I wanted to, because it just wasn't in the cards. I wasn't experienced enough. So the best thing I could do was enjoy what was taking place. And the funny thing was, it was expanding what my world was. It was a transformation. In fact, this dive master was an alchemist, because I guarantee when this was over, I was not going to be the same person. And think about that. If I'm looking to do business with somebody, I want to work with somebody who's going to give me a transformation, who's going to make sure I'm different than when I first started working with him or her. So how do you fill your bank account? How do you nurture somebody? You make sure you include some type of transformation in your experience that you provide. Now, I got to tell you, I was scared, and you can sweat underwater. You know that. I know this. You can. My mask was a little foggy. I was sweating in my suit, and maybe I was watering or whatever, but I was nervous. And he's swimming ahead, and I'm staying with him, and he's doing this, like I said, and I keep giving it back because I don't know what else to do. And then off in the distance, my biggest fear seems to be about to take place. You see, I wear contacts. And when I was going to dive, I had to figure out, do I take them out or leave them in? My thought was, if I leave them in and water gets in, I'm blind, I can't see. Then my thought was, you don't put them on, you can't see anything, you're blind. So I decided to keep them in. Why? Because I wanted to see what was taking place. So he's off ahead of me, and he's swimming towards something I can't see. I just see a shadow. I don't know what it is, but it looks dark. And in my mind, I thought it was a shark. I thought it was a shark coming our way, and this fool was swimming towards it. And I started to swim kind of back, because you know what? I had a black wetsuit on. A shark's favorite meal is a seal. I complimented the look of a seal with my outfit and me. And I thought, I didn't want to be near this guy or that. And so I'm sitting there watching him. And as this thing comes closer, I realize he's swimming towards it. And it's not a shark at all. It is a turtle, a big turtle. And he gets on the back of it, which I now know is illegal. You can't do that. He's riding this thing. He pulls out his knife, starts rubbing it on the back of his shell. And later on, he told me they love that. And my thought was, how do you know they love that? Did they tell you? But he's enjoying the ride. And I'm looking at him going, this is great. This is weird. I couldn't believe it. So I watch him for a couple of minutes. I show him my gauge, because I am now halfway through my air. I'm nervous, but I'm having a great time. I'm transformed. And he's swimming on this turtle's back. And I'm just thinking, this is crazy. My friend is not going to believe this. He hops off, and we start swimming, and he starts pointing out the coral and the sea anemones and just all the things I might have missed because I wasn't looking in the right place. He was showing me what was at the bottom of the ocean. And I showed him a little bit later, which probably was only 2 or 3 minutes, my gauge again. I'm like, and he's like, I'm like, okay. I hate that sign now. Or maybe I don't now, but in the moment I did. And the funny thing is, we're just enjoying this, and he's smiling, and I think he's just getting a kick out of me. And we swim around, and we see the other divers off in the distance. And I don't know if my friend was there, but I just saw a bunch of them, and they had to be the group that took off earlier than us. And finally, I show him, and my tank is now in the red, or my gauge is in the red, and I'm nervous. And he's like, now, if you've ever gone diving, you realize you can't go to the bottom of the ocean and then go straight up because you get the bends. So you have to stop at different stages, and you sit there for a couple minutes while the nitrogen gets out of your system. And then you can get to the top. And as we're doing this, I'm sitting on the rope, looking at him, and he's just smiling at me. And I'm watching my tank drain of air and thinking, I'm going to run out of air while we're waiting. And he's smiling. He thinks it's funny. I don't. And I promised myself, if I make it out of that moment, I wanted to just pop him one, because I was kind of scared, which you would be if you didn't know what was going to happen. And finally we get to the top. And the funny thing is, when you're underneath the ocean, that tank on your back isn't so heavy because the buoyancy. But when you get out, it comes back to you, the weight. So as I'm trying to get on the boat, that weight comes back. I'm tired. I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm exhilarated. And I sit there and think, maybe I'm not going to pop you because I'm just too tired. And he looks at me and says, how was it? I said, it was great, but I'm tired. He says, yeah, it happens the first time. I said, it was really good. I said, yeah, but I only was supposed to go to 35 feet, right? He said, yeah, about that. I want you to remember this when your friend gets up here. And I said, what? He said, well, tell me what you saw. And I said, well, I saw the lobster. I saw the eel. I saw you on the back of the turtle. And he said, yeah, don't mention that. He said, did you see the fish that looked like that? I said, yeah, I saw that. What about the coral? Wasn't that gorgeous? I said, yeah, it really was cool. He said, I need you to remember all that because when your friend gets up, he's going to want to pop me. And I'm thinking, yeah, I get it. I want to pop you. And a couple minutes later, they all come up, the professional divers. And I'm looking at my friend and I run over to him. I said, Mike, I saw you guys. And he looks at me like, how could you see me? We were at the bottom. I said, I was at the bottom. And as soon as I said that, he looked at the dive master and started to walk towards him like he was going to hit him. I'm like, Mike, stop. And the funny thing is the dive master is sitting over there like this. I don't think that was the first time he's taken somebody down deeper than they were supposed to be. But he's sitting back there just laughing. And my friend just goes off on him and says, what are you doing? You know you were only supposed to take him 35 feet. And finally he said, he looked like he could handle it. Ask him what he saw. And of course I went over the list. I said, Mike, it's okay. It would have been a lot more boring for me to be at 35 feet than it was to be at 85 feet. And the dive master said he looked like he was having a great time. And I was. In fact, I had such a great time. I had such a great transformation in that dive. I asked them, I said, can I get certified while I'm here? And the dive master said, I'll do it. Yeah, sure you can. Now, for me to do that, that meant my friend had to give up a day or actually work without me. And he said, look, yeah, you go ahead. I'll cover for you. So at the end of that trip, I had my certification. Professional diver, certified. I wouldn't say professional, certified diver. And the funny thing was, I don't know if that was the plan of the dive master with everyone he takes out who's new to get them certified and use him to do it. What I do know is after that dive, I wasn't the same person. You see, I would have been happy snorkeling. I would have been happy at 35 feet, I'm sure. But because the dive master was really an alchemist, somebody who wanted to see a transformation take place with one of his clients, he got more business because I dived with him. I was safe. Of course, I'm going to him. He created an experience I'll never forget. He created a transformation for me. And it was just one of those stories that I've told for years. You see, whatever your comeback's going to be, there's going to be a story in it. And the question is, how do you take that story and help other people with it? And it can be a story about how things went wrong, how life sucked, or it can be a story about how that happened and you made it better. It can be about your transformation. It can be about the people who were the alchemists in your life who helped you move forward. You see, the dive master was an alchemist. And that's what I call myself now, because when I'm working with my clients, my goal isn't to give them an experience. It's to create a transformation in them so they are different than they were before we started working together. Isn't that what you want to be doing for your clients and with your clients? And when you hire somebody, isn't that what you want from that expert? When you hear a speaker, do you want to just be entertained? Or when it's over, do you want to be different than when you walked into that room? Now, there's nothing wrong with being entertained by speakers. I've been entertained by plenty of wonderful ones. I also have entertained people versus giving them a lesson to make them different, because in that moment, that's what it called for. One of the things I know is that if I can help my clients change, have a transformation after working with me, then they bring me back or they tell other people about me. You see, one of the things we love about watching TV shows, when they do the makeovers is we get to see the transformation. This is what they look like before. This is what they look like after. Whether they've lost weight, they change the way they put their makeup on, the clothes they wear. That's what we're looking for, is the transformation. That's what we want to see. We want to see how you brought in an alchemist who said, this is what you do, and when it's over, you're going to look like this. That's what we're really looking for, to see how it happened and what's the results. So if you want to fill your bank account, let me give you a tip here. They can either dive at 35 feet, or you can provide this opportunity where they get an experience that they weren't planning on. That a transformation takes place as they get deeper with you. That dive master knew what he was doing. It wasn't by accident. He could have went and dived with all the more experienced. He took me. Why? Because he was going to get more business. And he probably knew I was going to tell a story like this. Think about it. You want to get more business, then how do you become the alchemist? How do you create alchemy where all of a sudden you add something when you're working with people and they are different? There's a transformation. You see, don't get caught up in the experience, because, these days when we hear an experience, it's not always a positive thing. Oh, the experience I had when I went to that store. Oh, the experience I had when I hired this person. I don't know about you. I don't need any more experiences. I want changes. In fact, it reminds me of years ago. I can't even remember the airline, but it was in Turkey. I remember it was in Turkey, though. They show a picture, and you can Google this on the internet someplace. And I want to say it's like Pachongo or something Airlines, where they showed how the plane went off the runway, and it was on the side of an embankment. It didn't go all the way down in the ocean, but the picture is of it on its side, or on the side of an embankment. And the funny thing people talked about was the experience those people who were on the plane must have had. They were scared. I don't know if they'll ever fly again. And that's an experience. I don't think that's what people want, being on a plane when it goes over the side of an embankment. But if we were to dive deeper and looked at transformation, what's the transformation you think took place among the people who were on that plane and survived, which they all did? How many of you know they probably left that plane thinking life is more important, their loved ones are more important? How important it is to make sure you check out the airline and check out their safety records, or the weather, because it was a weather-related incident. You see, you can have an experience, or you can have a transformation. What do you think people are looking for? Experiences, they're a dime a dozen. When you go to the store, when you go to the restaurant, when you go to the movies, when you hang out with friends, when you go to a sporting event, that experience is this, it lasts this long. 2 hours at a game, hour and a half at dinner. And I'm not knocking them, but if I want to get hired, I want to be the one people are calling. It's the transformation I'm going to provide. So think about your business. How do you take what you do and make it a transformation, not an experience? I guarantee those people who got off the plane, life was sweeter. And if you were to ask them, did their life change from that flight? I bet you they would all say, yeah. They probably called somebody, sent a note. They were nicer. They took things, they let it roll off their back. It wasn't such a big deal. That was a transformation. Granted, I don't want all of us to be on a plane that goes off like that, but think about it. How do we create transformations? The other thing I want you to think about, if you're going to fill your bank account, and you're going to nurture your soul, one of the things you have to think about is it is not always about the information you are going to provide. You see, in this particular setting, you are going to hear from so many other presenters who are all giving you information. Nothing wrong with that. But you know what? You can, wrong side. You can Google anything you need to know these days. Or you can Bing it, or you can, whatever the search engine is you use. I guarantee you can find it, because guess what? There is somebody who has taken the time to make a YouTube video about it. someone who has decided that they had too much time in the day and they decided to show you how, which I am so thankful for. Information is easy. So when you're looking at how do you get more business, it isn't going to be about giving more information, because it probably isn't unique. They can probably find it without you. It's going to be about the way you present it, the way they can digest it, the transformation you incorporate in it. And so one of the things I have learned when I'm working with people is that they're people. And that sounds kind of crazy, but they're people. They're not students sitting there trying to take in more information. No one is screaming, give me more information to put in my head so I'll just have another set of facts. They're looking for you to present it in a way that touches them, that nourishes their soul, that is relevant to their life. They're looking for you to be the alchemist, for you to somehow give them this information that's going to change the way they see things. And I'll give you a secret that works for me. It might work for you. You see, if we were to make a list of what people are looking for in their life, or when they're going to their traditional job, or they're in a group of friends or an association, if we were to make a list of what they're looking for, I bet you in that list we would find things like, I want to be respected. I want to have friends. I want to be supported. I want to be in a place where people value my contribution. I want to be in a place where people can trust each other. I want to be a place where we're always looking to be our best. This list would be full of things that would nourish their soul, that would make them feel better than what they are before they walk into that room or after they walk into that room. You see, I call it the list. And I think it's what people are looking for, especially these days. How many of you would love to be in a place where people support each other, respect each other, nurture each other, appreciate each other, listen to each other? You see, this list is long. And the cool thing is when you find a place or person to work with who provides that list for you, you'll keep working with them. Every group I've ever stayed with, I found what was on that list. One particular group I do work with for 20 years. It's in the travel industry, which is being hit right now. But I started off 20 years ago giving a keynote speech and doing some leadership training. I am not in the travel industry. I don't travel. I mean, I travel, but I don't buy or sell travel. I don't take groups anywhere. But I stayed with this group because they are a wonderful group of people. They nurture young people. They respect each other. They believe the world is a good place. It's a place where if you're around them, you want to keep staying and hanging out with them because it just fulfills what we're looking for in the world. And so when they ask if I'll support them and help and volunteer, my answer is of course. Why? Because I feel good when I'm around them and they appreciate me, value my information. And they're just good people. Some of my best friends come from this industry. And what happens is I get what's on the list from hanging out with them. My question for you is when people work with you, are you giving them information, facts, tools, tips only? Or are you giving them stuff that we're all looking for? Friendship, trust, respect, confidence, support. And not because that's what they pay for, but because that's what they need as a human, as a person. You see, we're all looking for that list. And the funny thing is we can get it anywhere. Years ago, I used to speak to young people. And I would always tell them the same thing I'm telling you now. Everyone's looking for what's on that list. And then I'd ask them a question like, can you get this if you're in a gang? And of course they would all go, no, no, no. And then of course I would ask them again and they would go, yeah, you can. You can get respected. You can get support. You get friendship. You can get everything that's listed on the list that you and I would search for and seek. It's what they're looking for, but they can get it in that particular group. It's not the way we want them to get it, but we're looking for it. We'll go wherever we can find it. And so for lots of people, that's where they find it, not necessarily in the gang, but in a group that you and I wouldn't say is a great group to be with. If we were to dig deeper, we would find that's what they're really seeking. So when I work with my clients, I have to keep that in the back of my head. I got great information, but I want to make sure that I give them some of the things I have on my list and what's really on your list too. When I went diving, obviously the dive master supported me. Otherwise, I'm dead. He nurtured me so that I could go deeper. Are you okay? Yes. He made sure I was getting some of that stuff so I felt comfortable enough to trust him. And because of that, a transformation took place. He was my alchemist. Alchemy took place because I got what was on the list. You're listening to all these other presenters who are sharing some great things. My hope is that when it's over, there's a transformation that took place with you from the words you've heard from other great people. And your job is to make sure when you go work with your clients, when you're out in the world, whether it's at a traditional job and you're the supervisor or the person in charge, that you make sure you don't just look at the people as a staff person, but you look at how do I make sure I get the best out of them? How do I do that? By supporting them. And how do I do that? By making sure I understand what people are looking for. You know, sometimes we look at the people we work with or in the world and we go, oh my gosh, there's no way we can come back from that. That person can't be as good as I hoped, I wished. But I'll tell you, great thing about what we're doing now is there are so many comeback stories. There are so many opportunities for us to talk about, hey, I thought I was down, I wasn't going to come back, and boom. You see, some are famous, some aren't, but it doesn't even make a difference. You just have to believe that you know today might not be the best day, but tomorrow could be the better day. You know, one of the people I admire, and I don't know if it's the character he plays or just who he is as a person, and what I know of him. You know, years ago, Robert Downey Jr. just had some challenges. I mean, it wasn't unusual to see him on TV being arrested for all kinds of things and going to rehab and kicked out. And then, I mean, there's a certain point where a friend of mine used to say, he doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it because he had plenty of second chances. And it just seemed like he kept blowing them until finally one time, whatever was going on and whatever help he received, it stuck. He took it. He ran with it. He made the most of it. And I'm not saying it's not a struggle every day for him or anyone who's got to deal with that type of addiction or whatever it is going on in his world. What I know is he's a comeback story. Why? Because he's Iron Man. And he'll always be Iron Man. He's got plenty of money. He's got clout. He's got a good life, I think. He's got opportunities for roles. But 20 years ago, Google that. You'll see it's like, ooh, this is who this guy was? You see, that's his comeback. And imagine doing it publicly. You and I, when we blow it, not too many people know it. Unless we're giving a speech and it doesn't go well, then they all know it. But what I want you to keep in mind is we get to have a comeback from a setback that usually isn't as visible as what he and plenty of others have experienced. I want you to keep in mind, you can come back. And just remember, it's not as visible as it is for others whom it makes it even more of a challenge because everybody's looking for you to fail again. You see, alchemy is when you take something that isn't going well, you add something, and out of it comes something really cool, more magical. It's a process. That's the definition. Pretty whimsical. And what I know for me is when I'm working with audiences, I add information. They can get anywhere. But I add engagement. I add stories, just like you can. I add something visual. I add an anchor. And all of a sudden, It's not just an experience, it's a place where transformation takes place. You want to get more business, you want to keep business, make sure it's more than an experience you offer. It's a transformation. It's a story. It's a sharing of where you didn't do so well, but you came back. You see, you're the alchemist. You're the dive master for somebody else. And the question is, do you take them to 35 feet, or you take them to the bottom of the ocean and show them all the things that are there that most people will miss out? I hope you think about the role you get to play in this world. I hope you realize it's a privilege to be in front of an audience and give them some insight into how to be better. I hope you realize anytime a customer comes into your place looking for your product or service, you can either be the one who says, I'm going to give you a customer service experience that they could probably get anywhere else and it only lasts for a short bit of time. Or you can say, how do I make sure every person I come in contact with, I can see if I can throw out a transformation, something that sticks with them when we're done with this exchange of dollars, ideas, services. It's not going to happen every time, and it's going to be maybe a challenge to apply in your world. I'll just tell you this. It's amazing when you have a new set of eyes and you look at the way you interact with people, how you can somehow find a way to go a little bit deeper. I went to 85 feet, my first dive. I got certified. I've been to 110 feet and thought nothing of it. Why? Because I was comfortable. I got a chance to realize 35 is just the place you start. And I got to 85 and 110 because I was surrounded by good people who made sure I was doing okay. I hope you have a great experience, whatever you do, but more importantly, I hope after that experience, there's a transformation that takes place. There's a lot out there, and make sure you see it, experience it, and then share it. And I guarantee you provide what's on the list that we're looking for. We're always going to want to work with you, hire you, buy your products, your service, fill your bank account. And as long as you nurture our soul and our spirit, we will be your biggest supporters. I hope your comeback stories are few. More importantly, I hope you realize opportunities for you to inspire others. My name is Norm Hull. I want you to enjoy the experience, but more importantly, I want you to look for the transformation that life provides for you.